All right, so we're back for the second session of this afternoon. My name is Michael Keller. I'm from the University of Applied Sciences and Arts of Western Switzerland, based in Fribourg, Switzerland. It's actually a real pleasure for me to be here on site. I've had the pleasure to follow this BE-READI Alps project as policy table facilitator through its whole lifetime. But we have never had the occasion to actually meet in person, so it's the last meeting and the first time that we can meet. And I have to say, it's just something else if you can sit in front of each other, benefit from traveling. For example, this morning I had a bit of time. I went to the Imperial Treasury here at your Hofburg, where all these beautiful artifacts from the Habsburg monarchy are exposed. And those of you who know me probably know that I have some type of passion for this Habsburg monarchy, and there's actually a reason why I really like this Habsburg story. I once was the lead partner of an Interreg project, and we found out that every single region that participated in this Interreg project of the Alpine Space was at some point in history ruled by the House of Habsburg. And this is something that is not only true for one of these projects, but I think that in most of the Interreg projects of the Alpine Space, we are actually united by this Habsburg history. Actually, I would defy you if someone can name one of the regions participating in this program that has never been ruled by Habsburg. There are some, but if you find them, you'll get a small prize. So Habsburg is uniting us. The Austrians will be very happy about that, but also we Swiss are very happy about that, because actually Habsburg family are coming from Switzerland, from a castle that is called Habsburg, which is very close to where our university is based. So a good collaboration story between Switzerland and Austria. But not only our history is uniting us in the Alpine Space, also a lot of other things. Our ecosystem of thriving businesses, really driven by an economy that is strongly dependent on small and mid-sized enterprises, on family businesses. On the other hand, also challenges and opportunities that we face together. Just think about climate change, what this means for our mountain regions, bioeconomy, all the bio resources that we have that we can use to replace fossil fuel-based inputs in value chains, bioeconomy, circular economy. All of these opportunities for green transition actually really unite us. And if we're thinking about innovative ecosystem, innovative business ecosystem, what we normally tend to associate this with is either the big players, the big industry players, the most innovative companies out there, really big players, or then on the other hand, the very small, very young startup companies and so on and so forth. But we know that our economy is actually really living off small and mid-sized enterprises that are here, that have a long history on our territory, mature SMEs. And therefore, this BE-READI Alps project is really something that struck my attention. Very innovative approach to this problem, the question, how can we bring this type of innovative ecosystem, this innovation that is needed to tackle common opportunities together to the level of mature SMEs. Mathilde in the session before mentioned that she thought at the beginning of the project that this is really something very visionary. I would say yes, it's absolutely visionary, but you have seen in the first session that the project has been able to deliver a real contribution to supporting mature SMEs in the Alpine Space. And a lot of lessons have been learned during this project. And in this second session on the panel here, we will actually discuss some of these lessons learned with experts that are representing different organizations that have a lot of experience in supporting businesses in the Alpine Space to become more innovative and contribute to the opportunities that we have just identified together. Opportunities are many out there. Access to finance has been discussed before, but also digitalization, of course, is one of the big levers for companies to become more innovative, to get a second life for mature SMEs. And in the field of digitalization, I have the pleasure now to introduce to you the first speaker of the second session. We will have a contribution from Alenka Maroft from the Secretary at the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology in the Directorate for Internationalization, Entrepreneurship and Technology of the Republic of Slovenia. Alenka is not with us on the panel, but she will give a short input speech from distance. So Alenka, I hope that you can hear us. during this BE-READI Alps project, I have learned that you have been extremely active in the field of bringing digitalization support to the companies in your country. We could consider this somehow as a good practice, maybe even a best practice. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about how you tackled this issue in Slovenia.
Yes, thank you very much. And I'm really glad to be with you. I'm sorry I couldn't make it come in person. On the other hand, I also get non-COVID virus, so my voice is a little bit strange now. So I apologize. Well, I will really focus more on digitalization, but maybe in discussion or later on, we can also say something about the measures during the COVID crisis or the support needed for liquidity and so on. So first of all, I would really like to thank all the 14 project partners for these outcomes, and also express my sincere praise for active involvement from our Slovene side for a regional chamber of craft from Maribor. Our ministry strongly supports BE-READI Alps project because its purpose is to support the company's efforts in launching Second Life projects by achieving high level of innovation, digitalization, or internationalization, or all three together. And these are also the guidelines for our key development priorities. I still believe that the main task, as it was mentioned a couple of times, that the state should ensure a predictable, stable, and competitive business environment. It means infrastructure, services, legislation, and of course, finance. We have done quite a lot in this field, and we will continue to upgrade our work also in the future to build the ecosystem that will be made for the businesses. However, to achieve the goals that we set also in Slovenian industrial strategy that till 2030, it was recently adopted by the government, our focus will be above all in innovation for inclusive green and digital transition. We believe, and our experiences also confirm, that the goals set for 2030 could be achieved only through green and digital transformation of our economy and society. So we want first to achieve higher productivity with added value per employee of 66,000 euro, and second, to be among the top 5 countries in Europe in DESI index, and among the top 3 in terms of the level of use of advanced digital technologies. Maybe just for the illustration, Slovenia ranks now 13th place in DESI, so we have a lot of work to do. So I will focus, as I mentioned, only on the Slovene path for digital transformation, but it walks hand in hand with the circular economy. It was also interesting from the results of the previous colleagues from the policy dialogue that the digitalization is an important boost for the company's growth, also for the second cycle. So in the field of digitalization of the economy, and also as part of the milestone under the Recovery and Resilience Facility, the government adopted in January this year the strategy on digital transformation of the economy, and it will be also part of Digital Slovenia, so the huger strategy for digitalization. Besides that, we work hard on adapting business processes to new EU legislation, the Digital Service Act, Digital Market Act, and also financial legislation. One of the important projects that we want to implement is to introduce an innovative digital corporate identity card. So its aim is that the company enters in any register or any database only once. That will remove administrative burdens for enterprises. Within the ministry, we are now creating a hybrid cloud. Maybe just to explain, this is the possibility for companies that they have easier access to services of our ministry. So everything will be online. In the investment part, we have just published a public tender for digital transformation in the amount of 44 million euro of large enterprises, and in consortia with SMEs and startups can apply. So I just today received the results. 57 companies applied, and the investment part is 100 million. So we cannot support all of the projects. We are also very aware that international cooperation is important also in digitalization. So we prepared within the RRF multi-country projects in 3 areas. European Common Data Infrastructure and Services, European Blockchain Infrastructure and Services, and Microelectronics. In the cohesion part, so this was RRF, and cohesion policy part, so for the period till 2027, we are now preparing the documentation, and it's an important source of finance for digitalization, especially for SMEs. Our aim is to provide free of services for SMEs through a digital innovation hub. As you maybe remember from, or maybe not, from my last presentation, Digital Innovation Hub offers free of charge services in different fields for SMEs, also mentoring, coaching, and now we will want to continue with these activities. It is well recognized in Slovenia, and as we all probably agree, the knowledge and skills are one of the most important parts in digitalization, so also the human part. We will continue with also so-called digital vouchers that are part of the huge voucher scheme. We have 4 areas that we support to prepare, to upgrade, to raise digital competencies, digital marketing and digital strategy, and of course in a very important area, cybersecurity. And it was interesting also from one of the previous presentations that the need for the preparation of strategy designing web page is one of the missing parts in SMEs, also in the whole Alpine region. So in addition, we will continue also with the most successful call for tenders for digital transformation of SMEs. These are grants up to 100,000 euro. And maybe just perhaps for the feeling, the last call, finance from REACT EU, the amount was 30 million euros, supported 311 SMEs project, but Slovene Enterprise Fund, as our implementing institution, received more than 700 applications. So it shows that there is a huge need for digitalization in SMEs in Slovenia. This is an overview of what's going on and what will be done in Slovenia. And finally, maybe just to conclude, I would like to say that innovation is the driver of growth, but the driver of innovation are always people. That's why I'm really happy to be part of the BE-READI Alps project, and I'm looking forward for the final results and wish you a good cooperation also in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alenka, for your input talk. You asked whether we remember your last presentation. Of course, we do. This is also why we mentioned that Slovenia can really be considered here as a good practice for all of us, and we will certainly continue also to look to Slovenia to learn from you in the field of support services for digitalization. And your conclusion behind all of that, there are people, I saw our panelists actually all confirming this, so I think this is a good occasion now to switch to the room, and I have the pleasure to introduce to you the 3 panelists. On your extreme left, we have Mr. Dusan Todorovic, who is the head of the AWS Industry Startup Net. Next to Dusan, we have Umberto Bondi from Switzerland, from the south of Switzerland, canton of Ticino. Senior Project Manager and Coach at the Startup Center of the Università della Svizzera Italiana. And next to Umberto, we have Mr. Leopold Strobel, who represents the Chamber of Commerce of Graz in Styria. So I would like to directly start with you, Mr. Strobel. As representative of the Chamber of Commerce, I would be interested to learn a bit more about the support services that you offer to SMEs.
Thank you for the invitation to be here this afternoon. The Chamber of Commerce in Styria, we have about 90,000 members. And in Austria, it's obligatory membership to the Chamber of Commerce. So every enterprise is not very amused by this. So we have to grant service for all our members. So it's necessary that we have services begin the pre-founding phase till the growing phase, the major phase, and maybe to the last phase, the takeover or the business transfer. And so it's my department is the Department of Economic Services. I'm head of this department. And it's all combined in this department, all except the law services. We have some business administration services, some other special programs. And we'll introduce my statement to 3 programs we have for the last 5 of the last 10 years. And it's the first, the planning program, future planning of the business administrator in our chamber. The second one is a Follow Me initiative for business transfer. It's about 15 years old, and the so-called InnoLab Restartup program, where we can support major enterprises to refresh, to renew their business model. So first, the business calculation, the planning calculation in Styria. Only in Styria, in the Chamber of Commerce in Styria, we have 5 specialists in business administration. They're all over the country, not in the center in Graz, but all over near the countries, and support the entrepreneurs there. So in the pre-order phase, pre-founding phase, and all over the phases of their employeeship. And it's a program that we can make a business calculation for the next 2 or 3 years with some several consequences, several first case, normal case, and best case, so that our enterprises can see what will be the development for the next years. And it's necessary to plan for the next years. So many enterprises have less plan. They have some ideas and some knowledge, but not the business administration knowledge in their head and in their business. Mm-hmm. Second one is the Follow Me initiative. It was first was a project, and it's a business transfer program. And there are 2 columns of this program. First, we have online marketplace. And the second part and second column of this initiative is a large network all over Styria with all the players doing and dealing in the sector of business transfer. So first, our marketplace, or our online marketplace, it's all over Austria, the so-called Nachfolgebörse marketplace for all the assessors and all the handover enterprises, and they can put their information into this database. And only in Styria, every of these cases is personally supported, because it's necessary. Because if you have a pizzeria that is taken over the 7th time within 2 years, it would be a problem. So it should be the quality of a better one. And it's possible that with our partners to support within this database. You can put your information into this, and all over the year we have about 2,000 pairs what take over business and the assessors. And on the other side, the network we have if all the players, let's say bank institutes, lawyers, tax consultants, so we have our experts in the several divisions for the support, not only from the chamber, but we are managing all this network, but not only the services itself. And all over the year, I told you about 2,000 pairs. And it's necessary to know that we think only in Styria, it's about 50,000, 60,000 employees. They are concerning to these enterprises. And the last words to follow me. First was 15 years ago. If you're an entrepreneur and 85 years old, that it should be to give your enterprise to the next generation. And if the boy, the girl is 52, is allowed to go to the bank institute the first time without father, should it be start before? So it's not, let's say, a business transfer is not the death of the old man or the old woman, but is a normal thing in the business, in the entrepreneurship. So the age of the takeover and the elder generation is about 40, 50. It's very necessary for us. It's not a dead and black, but it's a normal situation in your employership. And the assessor for himself is a founder. So it's the same like a startup or a founder who takes the first time an enterprise.
So if you hear all of these types of supports that is offered by the Chamber of Commerce of Styria, Umberto, I think a lot of that is very well known to you and very similar to what is going on also in your case. But what I would like to specifically ask you is, you're coming from the startup world.
Yes.
And within this BE-READI Alps project, you had this original and visionary idea to actually really take elements specifically from the startup world and apply to the world of support mechanisms for mature SMEs. So how do you see this? What are you offering with your organization in this field, and how could these type of support mechanisms be used within this project?
Okay, so I'm working at the Startup Center of Università della Svizzera Italiana in Lugano, Canton Ticino, just to provide you a short framework. And within this incubator, we are offering, let me say, typical service that University Incubator offers. That means coaching, spaces, and our support. And in particular, this is coming in the last 5 years, 10 years, something like that. We are providing a quite good knowledge about the different level of ecosystem. That means the local one, for us is the Canton Ticino, offering some kind of support, very interesting for company and startup. Later on we have the Swiss level, the national level, and Switzerland is a real federal country. So whatever is this, there is a lot of issues decided at the cantonal level, and on top there is the federal level. And on top of this, now we are also exploring the possibility to offer services to our startupper in the Alpine Space area, and on top there is Europe and worldwide. What we can see is that the small and medium company, at the end of the day, in order to survive, they are acting in very similar way. And they need such a kind of support also for attracting investment, and sometimes they have to change their own internal policy, but also they have to start also to face how an investor can see their own project. And on top, they need support in understanding the ecosystem they are moving in. Another issue is that they have to know their own vertical quite well. And this is the key point with the collaboration with the startup. Okay, back on the ecosystem is like a jungle. Every second year there are new actors coming in, other coming out, there are merger and acquisition, even among the public authorities, and an ecosystem is composed by, following the Tripolix model, by public actor, business actor, and academia. Understand how these actors are acting with different speed, different modality is not easy for each kind of actor, for startups, for SMEs, and so on. Big corporations, normally they have a special office dealing with this. but an SME or even a startup cannot. So this is how our support is coming in. And of course, there are methodologies we are using. We are using quite, whenever it's possible, very intuitive tools. Normally, there is a canvas for every aspect of the business development. But this is exactly what we are working with tools that can provide speed, clarification, and support to the company. At the end of the day, an SME is with a clear, innovative project. Is not a startup because they are different assets, but they are more or less facing very similar challenge. And the contamination we are now working in is more or less the following, was the basic idea of the project. And this project started from an experiment on the Bodensee several years ago. So we have the fact that SMEs are knowing very well in general. They are supposed to know very well their own vertical. They know how to manage with the different actors. And the common culture and also the common way of making business. Startups are coming with fresh idea, but a lot of time are quite naive in facing how to deal the business. In particular, when you are concentrated on the fact that the business in our part of Europe is really based on, at the end of the day, on contract. And this is a very important issue regarding this one. On top, we are also working inside US Alpine and the G1 on similar topic, but I think we can go over on this issue.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Umberto. Let's close this introductory round with our third panelist. We heard about SME support really specifically, and then about coming from the startup world in a university setting. And I would like to conclude with you, because actually you have two hats. You're representing support for companies, but on the other hand, you're also an entrepreneur or an ex-entrepreneur. So you know both sides. Yeah, what are the lessons learned from your perspective from startup support, from which also mature SMEs can benefit?
I think there's a lot of things to learn. In my role as the manager of Industry Startup Net, but also of our largest business angel network in Austria, like the Business Angels, is that you have kind of two worlds that connect more and more with each other, and there's like a trend in the corporate network, mainly corporates, and this slowly trickles down to the level of the SMEs. So there's this idea of you have to use these startup tools. You have to become agile and lean startup, and you should do design thinking, and just to name a few of the methods. And that's what the corporates start to do. And the larger SMEs, let's say 250 around or even a bit bigger, and they start to deal with these tools. They teach their people. There's like an inflationary development on the whole coaching and organizational development industry. And the matter of fact happens then, the people know the tools, they try them out, they have new ideas, and they want to do this innovation within their corporation or a small medium enterprise, and then bang, there's a wall. There's a wall of the purchasing department, of legal department, of guidelines. That's where actually kind of the major SMEs are right now, in the very moment of standardizing things to be ready for the next growth. And that's where you start guidelining your organization, and that's where innovation stops. And we see that on many levels, be it internal innovation coming out of a SME with these modern tools, but also when a startup kind of connects to a corporate or to SME, that they face, for example, legal rules and purchasing rules of 400 pages. Mm-hmm. Well, you can do it with that in the T-Mobile or with Siemens. They have a legal department with 20 people or 30 people working on that. But a startup, it's done. You kill the idea before it starts flying. And so it's not a topic of what you can learn from them in terms of tools, for example. It's what is the attitude. It's this need for cultural change. And what we've seen in our network, those who really succeed, and they take out the very best innovative ideas from their SME or corporate and start company building with them outside the major organization. So this kind of really disruptive innovation, not the one kind of improving small steps. That's perfect within guidelines. That's perfect within your organization. But new things, new business models, take them out and let them grow with the ability to have their own lawyer, their own consulting agency, their own everything. Including in terms of how they deal with the business. Give them ownership of the innovation, the project idea, over success and failure. And that gives you a lot of opportunities. First thing is you really have to face the market. There's no double net securing you. Secondly, you can, if you're successful, attract investors. And that's also from the perspective of a business angel network. If there's somebody willing to invest into your project, maybe it's really good. If not, maybe not. And that's the thing. One thing you can learn. Second thing is you can see how they solve the same functional problems within an organization. Because a startup will deal with legal topics and purchasing topics and organizational topics differently. And there's maybe something you can learn for your mothership. That's kind of, so rather, be ready to allow them to work, to make mistakes, and put them as far as you can from a middle management. Because they have to obey and they have to deliver KPIs. They have to deliver obeying to the rules. And just one short sentence was stated in the end. There's no innovation that ever happened within a guideline. It is usually the people in your company, we were talking about people before, who think outside of the box, outside this guided box, who make innovation. So give them the freedom to innovate.
Yeah, a lot of very interesting topics here. We could go on for hours to talk about that. One thing that I noted down is that you mentioned, and this is something that I see in my experience also, there's really an inflation of design thinking, agile methodologies. Everybody has to become resilient, and buzzwords, out there. And then you say, so if we want to cut the crap, actually what we need is change culture. New business models, really test them. But if I was overcritical here, change culture is just as well also a buzzword. So I have understood what you're hinting at, but how can we really ensure that this change of culture is trickling down to the companies, especially mature SMEs? How can this change of culture become more than a buzzword to really have an impact?
Okay, one issue is take care about your intellectual property, because this is exactly the asset on which you have to base your business. In particular, when you're dealing with partnership, or whatever, joint venture and so on, one of the key points, in particular when you're also dealing with university or a rector or new startup, is how to deal with your intellectual property. And another issue that is not really present, but I see in the startup, is how to make from a good idea, a business is fine, but also you have to create an investment opportunity for somebody else. This is a step that is really hard to put in the head of startup or even in SMEs. So in order to trigger collaboration, you have to think how a possible partner can get a benefit investing in your project. So really create an investing opportunity for your possible partner.
Yeah, I would like to give the question also back to you. Think out of the box. How do you ensure?
You talk about culture, and it starts, the fish starts smelling on the head, we say in German, something like that, and translated properly. I go back to my time as being an entrepreneur in my agency, and a very day I was talking about failure culture, I think for 3 or 4 years. And people just decide, do your own mistakes, it's fine. But nobody really dared to do. And then came the moment, so I'm just telling the story as like a metaphor for it. One of my employees came to me and he had a massive project failure. I think it costed approximately 30,000-40,000 euros. So it didn't kill us, but it hurts. And I listened to him and asked him a few questions, what he learned out of that and what he will do now differently in future. And he said, well, that and that and that, some bullet points. And said, fine, good, you can go. And he was like, and you won't fire me right now? I said, well, actually, I would be stupid if I fire you because I just invested 30,000 euros in your education. And now you do it better. And from that moment, this story went like and that's how you change culture, by changing how you behave as a manager. And this story went like on the informal ways of the agency, because we were about 40 people, it's a small one, okay. It ran through them, and the people now, well, he didn't fire him, and now they started deciding themselves. And that was on the change of decision culture and failure culture. And that's the very thing for the SMEs, where you have usually often still founder-run businesses, usually in a later age, with very patriarchal structures. So there is a boss deciding, and there's a family father, let's say, very often strict. And he has to change first. You can't tell your people, and now get an innovative culture. That's the goal. It doesn't work. You have to start with yourself. on the very top.
So you seem to completely agree with that. How does this resonate with you? What you hear from the startup world? Is this...
In Stereo, we have the so-called Restartup program. It's a program of the Department of InnoLab. InnoLab is a part of the university supplied at the university campus O2 in the Chamber of Commerce, and InnoLab was founded to support startups. The things that you said, but within InnoLab we have the program Restartup for major enterprises which are 10 years, 15 years on the market. They're thinking the same, making more of the same, and we support them to think their business new, to refresh their ideas, make some new products, some product lines, or to make a new business role in the enterprise. So the enterprises and entrepreneurs are 50 years old, 60 years old, they're thinking so in it, and so we can think their business completely new, so it's possible to restart. So the name otherwise would go down, and we don't support the enterprises when they go down and they have problems, but it should come before. That's our efforts to get them before they have problems, but then they can start and restart and make for the future. And in some enterprises, it's the enterprise is past this thing of the Restarter program, not the same enterprise like before.
Dusan, you wanted to react?
I just want to add on, because you just said they're running this business for 15, 20 years and longer. And there's a long time where you build paths in your brain, in your organization, the DNA. And then if you want to change culture, you can't change it in a sprint, design thinking sprint. It will take almost as long to change your culture as you build the old one. And so if you go into this project of changing culture, go in with the absolute, see that in front of you that you will run a marathon or maybe an ultra marathon in terms of time and energy till you're there, and then you'll start again to change your culture. So that's, I think, a very, very important message, because many of these culture change projects stopped after 2 or 3 years because they did not deliver. You can't change culture in 3 years, maybe in 10.
Huge issue. We have to focus down on something that you have mentioned before, because we have a follow-up question actually from our audience. So we have been talking about learning a bit from the startup world, applying that also to mature SMEs, but there's also the possibility that SMEs can directly collaborate with startups. And we have a question from someone in the audience asking what the risks are, what has to be considered, especially for an SME if this SME wants to work with a startup that is not consolidated yet. I think you have all experience on that. Umberto, you're laughing.
Yes. So this is perfectly true. For an SME, what is important, you have a reliable partner. But startuppers, apart serial startup that is a particular family, are newcomers. So they don't know exactly how the market works, how to understand the market and so on. On the other side, they have a clear idea on what is possible to do with some technology. So such a kind of contamination is quite complex, even because startups are somehow forced by all possible advisors to concentrate on the intellectual property. SMEs on the other side they prefer to work on industrial secret and patent. So matching this trade-off is really complex. And this is where the business support organization can somehow work, not to find an agreement among them, but to explain each other how the different cultural work are set up, and later the two partners should find by themselves an agreement, whatever it is. Another point in SME is what I've seen, a good example is where, exactly what both of the people here were talking about, if the management start to, let me say, teach all the employee of the company to understand the value of what they're doing. That means even the financial value of each project and each action. This is already a very interesting issue, also because in our school there is not a common financial education. We talk about engineers or technical or even creative people. They are not able to having a financial evaluation of a project.
So different IP strategies, different approach to funding strategies. Other elements?
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned that actually you have to be, and that's different. In our business of SMEs, I told it's all about secret.
Yeah.
And you're rarely in business meetings, you're rarely open with your expectations and your goals when you go into a project. And that's what we see in our network is the main reason of project failure if startups and SMEs or corporates, it doesn't matter, collaborate. So be very transparent in what you can offer to the startup. Show them tell them about your weaknesses, which are especially that some decisions take longer, that you feel specific risks, whatever it may be in the very specific case. And let the startup do that the same thing towards you and meet these expectations. And if there is an expectation set that fits, you go into the project. If not, then not. It's fine. Another startup will come. So don't force yourself into this collaboration. That's one thing. So be very transparent. The other thing is collaborating with startups, even if you have the right people in your organization, your SME, it's very different because the time is running in a different speed.
Yes.
And so you have to be very clear on that the startup is deciding a long decision, 1 week, speedy decisions, 1 call. And your speedy decision is probably 1 month that you had all your jour fixes and so on, and you match the positions. That doesn't work with a startup because they have a runtime. They have money for a specific time, let's say half a year or a year, and they have to manage the next step in that time period. So you have to decide faster. So prepare your processes, resources, be ready. What you are willing to invest, you should know before you start talking with them. That's one. The second thing. And the third thing, and it's still about the time, when you start, there is a go on a project. It's also why often it happens that SMEs are not happy after it. Till the decision, the SME is using, the send watch. It's going to send. I don't know what's going to be in English. Sanduhr. Time is kind of slow. And the very moment you sign the contract and start collaborating, there is the top management getting out, click, and the time is running for the startup. But it has just 5 employees, so they can't deliver that fast. So think of this time in different cultures and expectations. I think that's most important things to say. That's what we see where failure starts.
So we have 3 very concrete challenges that can lead to failures. What can you as support organisms actually do to overcome this?
I'd say the speed is the one thing, but the second thing is a psychological element. For the major companies, they are maybe slow, but the better planning, financial planning, and it's experience for us that startups often don't have a good business plan, don't plan their financial things, and maybe some holidays better plans than a startup phase. Let's say, and so this is our support that we want to help them, not the idea and the thinking in their heads, but in the financial case, so in the planning process, as I told you, in the pre-founding phase, in the first 3 or 5 years. And it's the same till the founding phase, it's not a problem, but from founding, the first 3 to 5 years, here we have the problems. From 5 years to the next years, it's the better one. So that from 0 to 5 years, that's a problem. And if you find some cooperation partner, they have the problem, a mental and psychological thing that they don't combine.
I think it's a very important thing you say. Forgotten to say before is look at the maturity of the startup. You have startups they're very big in the pre-seed phase. They're actually just still working on their prototype and their product. And if you start working with them as an SME, that needs a vast amount of resources, not just money, time from your people to actually, what you said, teach them business. Yeah. So if you don't have these resources, maybe you should start collaborating at a later stage, not let's say with a later stage startup getting scale up already, because they have already a bit more similarity to a bit more structure, bit more understanding, and a less need for your internal resources.
And another problem that sometimes we are facing is the legacy. At the time that the startup starts to collaborate with the company, they don't have a clue on the fact that if the SME start to work on different projects, maybe they have to destroy, to kill some part of their own business. And this for the startup is not known at all, and is very present in the head of the CEO of the SMEs. maybe I tried to sell this product in collaboration with you, but it means I have to dismiss the other one. That probably is declining, but still is providing us revenue. So there is still such a kind of trade-off that for startup is totally unknown, because they are just facing what they are doing, and all the rest of the world more or less is irrelevant.
But they won't know if the CEO doesn't tell them before.
Exactly.
So it's a lot about communication, translating between different types of languages. So unfortunately, we're completely running out of time.
Okay.
But I would still like to ask you the last question that we received, a very specific one, so we can be quick on that. Also from the audience, someone wanted to know what is the best possible financial support for a startup? Is it equity grants, or should you blend different funds? So someone really wants to start a company here and would like to know how to do that.
Is a startup asking or is it SME asking?
I don't know who is asking, but how can you best support financially startups through equity grants, or is it blending funds?
So very quick, it's depending from the business, from the sector. In biotech, you need a lot of money for a lot of time. In a web economy, you need few money in few times, so it's very different. And in collaboration with company, it's fine. Think that an investor is also another player in the game, and he wants his money back with a big multiplier. So it's not a joke. On the other side, public funding are interesting, are free money at the end of the day, but are costing a lot in terms of time. So this is not knowing the sector, the company is not the case.
So we will have to interact more with the person in question to give a more precise answer. Yeah, thank you very much to the three of you. It was a real pleasure to chat with you on these topics. We could continue for quite a while, I think, and I hope we will be in touch, and that you will also be in touch with our participants. We have to move on in our program for this afternoon, but of course there will be a lot of opportunities to discuss on these type of issues also in the future. So thanks to you. And on our side, we will...
Thank you.
You're welcome. And on our side, we will move on to a very short break to change the scenery again. And after the break, we will turn to a very special last session of the afternoon, because you all know that BE-READI Alps is not just talk, not in a negative way, of course, but it's about practice. And BE-READI Alps has been present in the territories of the Alpine Space with the BE-READI points, interacting with companies, selecting innovative companies, working with them. Some of these companies have been selected to participate for an award. They will pitch after the short break. So I'm really looking forward to learning what this interaction between support from BE-READI Alps and real companies from the Alpine Space has delivered. Listen to these companies, and I will, for this, after the break, give the word to Calogero Amato, who is partner at Match Strategies in Lugano, an innovation boutique, who was a partner in the BE-READI Alps project, who has accompanied these companies through this BE-READI journey, and will present to you the award and the vote mechanism after the break. So thank you for your attendance to this panel discussion. Thanks to the panelists, thanks to the audience, and see you.